George's eyelids fluttered open, only to find himself standing in the middle of a bustling city under the golden summer sun. Billboards shimmered with headlines. CEO Lily Evans announces new luxury line with fiancé George Hart. He froze. Fiancée. Lily Evans. That was the name of the main character in a novel he once read. My CEO Fiancée Cheated with an Intern. Realization hit him. He wasn't dreaming. He'd been dropped inside the story. As he walked toward the glass headquarters of Evans Corporation, flashes of memory not his own flooded his mind. Lily, his fiancée, powerful and adored, and the whispers of betrayal that were about to destroy his life. In this world, he wasn't a reader. He was George Hart, the tragic male lead who would be humiliated by his CEO fiancée and her intern lover. But George clenched his fists. Not this time. He vowed to rewrite the story. Morning light spilled across the sleek marble floors of Evans Corporation. George adjusted his tie, trying to mask the storm brewing beneath his calm exterior. Employees whispered as he passed. His engagement to the CEO made him the subject of fascination and quiet envy. Lily Evans stood by her office window, her golden hair glinting like sunlight. "You're late," she said, her voice soft yet sharp enough to cut. George smiled faintly. Didn't realize being 3 minutes early counts as late. Her perfect lips curled into a mocking smirk. In my company, perfection is the only standard. That was the first crack, the moment he noticed the subtle disdain behind her eyes. She wasn't looking at him with love, but with calculation. As they reviewed proposals for the upcoming summer gala, Lily's phone lit up. Jake Briefcase, intern Rose. Can't wait to see you tonight. George's breath hitched. The name burned in his mind. Jake, the very intern who would soon ruin everything in the novel's timeline. He pretended not to notice, but inside something dark awakened. He knew what was coming, the public humiliation, the betrayal. Yet as he met her eyes again, his calm smile returned. If this world was following the novel, he would change its script, one move at a time. That night, thunder rolled over the skyline. George whispered to himself as he looked at the ring on his finger. Let's see who ends up begging in this story, Lily. The night of the Evans Summer Gala arrived like a dream dressed in gold. The grand ballroom shimmered with chandeliers and laughter, filled with powerful CEOs, investors, and journalists, all waiting to witness the perfect couple of the year, Lily Evans and George Hart. George, in his black suit, played the part of the devoted fiancé flawlessly. He smiled for photos, shook hands, and toasted with champagne. But every glance toward Lily showed him what she truly was, a mask of elegance hiding deceit. Halfway through the evening, as the orchestra played, Lily took the stage. "Thank you all for celebrating Evans Corporation's success," she said gracefully. "I couldn't have done it without the amazing people behind me, especially Jake." Gasps rippled through the crowd as Jake, the intern, walked onto the stage, wearing a custom suit, smiling as if he belonged there. George's jaw tightened. He knew this moment in the novel. Lily publicly praised her brilliant intern, while subtly mocking her fiancé's lack of vision. "Jake has shown more potential in weeks than most do in years," Lily continued. Her words were daggers dipped in honey. "Some people may have titles, but others have true talent." Laughter, whispering. George's humiliation burned under the bright lights. But this time he didn't break. He stepped onto the stage, calmly took the mic, and smiled. "Indeed," he said smoothly, "talent deserves recognition, so let's see just how talented Jake is when we present the investor report, the one you two finalized." The room fell silent. Jake froze. Lily's confident smile faltered for the first time. George had rewritten the report earlier that day. The new numbers would expose massive discrepancies that only Lily and Jake could explain. Lily's expression flickered with panic, the first visible crack in her armor. George leaned closer, whispering for only her to hear. "Checkmate, fiancé." The crowd began to murmur again, confused and curious. And for the first time, Lily didn't look like the untouchable CEO, she looked cornered. The gala's glamour had turned to chaos. Reporters snapped photos, investors whispered frantically, and Lily's smile, once her most powerful weapon, was trembling. George handed the mic to the host with a calm nod and exited the stage before Lily could recover. He didn't need to say more. His silence was louder than any accusation. Minutes later, Lily stormed into her private office behind the ballroom, slamming the door so hard the glass walls quivered. Jake followed, pale and sweating. Lily, I swear I didn't touch the files. I don't know what." "Shut up," she hissed, heels clicking as she paced. "Someone changed the report. Everything's ruined." From the corner of the room, George's voice echoed like ice. "You mean someone exposed the truth?" They spun around. He leaned casually against the doorframe, shadows slicing across his sharp gaze. Lily's expression hardened. "You planned this." George smiled faintly. "No, I just stopped being your fool." Jake stepped forward, trembling. "You're jealous. You know Lily deserves better than—" Before he could finish, George's glare cut him off. "Better than what? The man who built this company's financial backbone while you were fetching coffee last month." Jake fell silent. Lily crossed her arms. "You think humiliating me changes anything? I still own this company. You're nothing without my name." "Maybe," George said, stepping closer until his voice dropped to a whisper. "But something tells me the board won't see it that way when they realize what you've been doing with company funds and interns." Her eyes widened. How did you?" George's smirk deepened. "I read the story, Lily. I know every secret you thought you'd hide." He turned to leave, pausing at the door. "Enjoy your evening. You'll need the memories. It's your last night as Evan's Corp's untouchable queen." The door shut softly behind him. Lily's perfectly painted nails dug into her palms, trembling with rage. Jake swallowed hard. "Lily, what are we going to do?" Her reply came like venom. "We destroy him before he destroys us." The morning after the gala arrived with a heavy stillness, like the calm before a summer storm. News outlets exploded with speculation. Evans Corporation faces financial misreporting allegations, and CEO Lily Evans silent after gala scandal. But while the media hunted for answers, George worked quietly from his penthouse, a view of the sunlit skyline reflecting off his laptop screen. He wasn't celebrating. Not yet. In the novel, this was the turning point, the moment the male lead fell further into ruin. He wouldn't make that mistake again. A soft chime broke his focus. Incoming message, meet me at the Mirage Cafe, urgent, Chloe. Chloe, his assistant in this world, loyal, sharp, and in the novel, the only person who believed in him even after his fall. At the cafe, her anxious eyes met his. "George, I found something." She slid a folder across the table. Inside were confidential documents, contracts and transfer records signed by Lily. "Offshore accounts, fake invoices. She's been funneling millions out of the company," Chloe whispered. George's eyes darkened. So it's true. Lily wasn't just cruel, she was corrupt. But then Chloe hesitated. "There's more. Someone been watching you. Last night a black car was parked outside your building. Same car followed you this morning." George leaned back, his mind already connecting the pieces. Lily wouldn't sit still, she'd retaliate. That evening, as rain began to fall, he returned home to find an envelope slipped under his door. No name, just a seal, Evans Corporation's crest. Inside, a single line written in Lily's elegant handwriting. "You're clever, George, but remember you're still playing in my world." His fingers tightened around the paper. He smiled coldly. "Then it's time I change the rules." Hours later, he met a man in a dimly lit parking lot, Richard Vale, a mysterious investor with ties to Evans Corp's rivals. George slid a USB drive across the hood of a car. "I can bring Evans Corporation down," George said, "but I need one thing: power." Richard studied him, intrigued. "Power, Mr. Hart, always comes at a price." George's eyes burned with determination. "Then I'll pay it." Thunder cracked above them. The rain fell harder, washing away the last of George's hesitation. The deal was sealed, and a new, darker chapter of his story began. Lightning illuminated the city skyline as George stared at his reflection in the dark window of his penthouse. His heart raced, not from fear, but from something different, something new coursing through his veins since the deal with Richard Vale. That night, as the clock struck midnight, he felt it, a pulse. A flicker of strange, radiant light surged across his arm, veins glowing faintly gold. The air trembled around him. For a moment, George thought he was hallucinating, but the desk lamp beside him suddenly flickered, then exploded into shards. He took a step back, stunned. What the hell? Images flashed in his mind, contracts, numbers, stock reports, all rearranging, calculating, connecting. His brain processed it all effortlessly. He could see patterns, outcomes, power shifts, like a chessboard laid bare before him. It wasn't magic. It was something sharper, awareness amplified, a gift, or perhaps a curse from the world itself. He whispered, half in awe, half in disbelief. "So this is my new power." By morning, George had already used it. He anticipated the board's next moves, predicting every investor's reaction to the scandal. He sent precise, strategic statements to the media through Chloe, subtly turning public opinion against Lily while maintaining his concerned fiancé facade. Meanwhile, Lily was in chaos. Her boardroom was tense, shareholders demanding explanations. Jake tried to comfort her, but she snapped, "Get out," before collapsing in her chair. Her phone buzzed. "George, meet me at the Skyline Terrace tonight. We need to talk alone." She frowned, torn between suspicion and curiosity. That night, as the sun dipped behind the skyscrapers, she arrived. The summer wind tangled her hair as George stood by the glass railing, the city lights glowing below them. "Why did you call me?" she asked coldly. George turned, his expression unreadable. "Because I wanted you to know what real power looks like." She laughed mockingly. "Power? You lost your position, your reputation." He stepped closer, eyes burning gold in the neon light. "You think I lost? Take a closer look at tomorrow's headlines." Her phone buzzed. She froze. Every major outlet was reporting the same thing. Evans Corporation faces legal audit. George Hart appointed as interim strategic director. Lily's lips parted in disbelief. How did you?" "I told you," George said softly, almost pitying. "You may have built this world, but I've learned how to bend it." As he walked away, Lily whispered after him, voice trembling. "What are you becoming, George?" He stopped just long enough to glance back with a faint smile. "Something you'll never control again." The city lights glimmered like fire in his eyes. And for the first time, Lily Evans felt fear. Summer sunlight poured through the tall windows of Evans Corporation, but inside the boardroom, the air was colder than ice. The once invincible Lily Evans sat at the head of the table, surrounded by frowning directors. The headlines had done their work. The audit had begun. Investors pulled out. Rumors spread that Lily had falsified company records, and behind it all, one name kept appearing: George Hart. "Miss Evans," said an older board member, his voice stern, "until the investigation is resolved, we are voting to suspend your authority as CEO." Lily's breath caught. "You can't." George entered the room just then, crisp in a navy suit, his expression calm and unreadable. The board turned toward him with a mix of respect and fear. "Actually," he said, placing a folder on the table, They can, and it's the best move for the company. The vote passed within minutes. Lily's hands trembled as her nameplate was quietly removed from the table. When she looked up, her gaze locked on George. "How could you do this to me?" she hissed under her breath. He leaned closer, voice low enough only for her to hear. "You did this to yourself, Lily. I just stopped cleaning up your mess." As he turned to leave, Lily's composure finally cracked. She stood abruptly, her chair scraping across the marble. "You think you've won. You think taking my company makes you stronger," she shouted. "You'll regret crossing me." The room fell silent. Even Jake, standing by the door, couldn't meet her eyes. George paused, giving her one last look, not with hatred but something colder. "Maybe, but unlike you, I can sleep knowing I earned my power." Outside, reporters swarmed as Lily pushed past them, flashing cameras reflecting her fallen crown. The woman who once ruled the skyline walked away into her own storm. That evening, George stood on the rooftop of his new office. The city lights stretched out beneath him, shimmering like a sea of stars. He'd done it, rewritten the story. But as the wind brushed against his face, a strange emptiness lingered. Victory felt hollow. His phone buzzed, a message from Chloe. "George, we have a problem. Someone hacked into your system. The data on Lily's accounts, it's gone." He froze then. From somewhere in the distance, thunder rumbled again. The queen might have fallen. But the game was far from over. The city hummed beneath a heavy twilight sky. George's office lights flickered across the glass as he stood before his monitor, files gone, accounts wiped clean, entire months of investigation erased. Whoever did this wasn't an amateur. And there was only one person with the motive, resources, and audacity to pull it off. Lily Evans. Chloe burst into the room, breathless. "George, she's moving fast. Her lawyers filed for an injunction claiming you falsified the records. She's trying to frame you." George clenched his jaw. So that was her play, turn his victory into a crime. "Let her," he said coldly. "Every move she makes exposes her desperation." But deep inside, he knew this wasn't just about business anymore. Lily wasn't fighting to save her empire. She was fighting to destroy him. That night, George returned to his penthouse. The summer rain was relentless, washing the city in silver streaks. As he entered, he froze. The faint scent of her perfume filled the air. Then he saw her. Lily sat on his couch, her hair damp, her designer coat clinging to her like armor. "How did you get in here?" he asked, his tone sharp but calm. She smiled faintly. "I still have my ways. Don't forget, I used to know every inch of your world." He walked past her, pouring a drink. "What do you want, Lily?" She stood, stepping closer, her heels echoing softly against the marble. "I want to talk, without the lawyers, without the headlines." George looked at her, expression unreadable. "You mean you want to manipulate me one last time?" Her mask slipped for a heartbeat, a flicker of real emotion. "You think this is easy for me, watching everything I built fall apart?" "You mean everything you stole," he replied. The words cut deep, but instead of rage, Lily laughed bitterly. "You've changed, George. You used to believe in me." He met her gaze steadily. "That George died the night you flaunted your affair in front of the world." Silence, only the rain spoke. Then Lily's voice broke softly, trembling, almost human again. "I did it because I was scared, of losing control, of you outgrowing me." For the first time, George hesitated. Was this guilt, regret, or another layer of her manipulation? Before he could respond, her phone buzzed. She checked the screen, her eyes widened, color draining from her face. "What is it?" George asked. She whispered, "Someone's targeting me now. They just took my private account, all my assets are gone." He frowned. "Who?" She met his gaze, fear replacing pride. "I don't know, but it's not you." George's power pulsed faintly again. The golden glimmer in his eyes flared as he saw flashes of numbers, encrypted signatures, coordinates. Someone else was moving pieces behind the scenes. The story had changed again. He looked out the window at the neon-lit city and murmured, "So, there's a third player in this game." And somewhere, far beyond their sight, another figure watched through a hidden camera feed, smiling. The night air was thick with tension, the skyline glowing like veins of light across the dark. George stared at the encrypted codes flashing across his screen, traces left by whoever had attacked both him and Lily. Chloe leaned over his shoulder, whispering, "I've cross-referenced the IP trail 3 times. It's masked through a dozen proxies, but one lead keeps repeating, a private data firm called Vortex Dynamics." George's brow furrowed. The name stirred something, a company that wasn't supposed to exist in the novel's timeline. The story was changing faster than he could predict. "Find out who's behind it," he ordered. But before Chloe could respond, the screen flickered, then filled with a message. "Vortex Dynamics. You've taken what doesn't belong to you, Mr. Hart. The world you think you control was ours first." Then static and silence. Lily's voice trembled behind him. "They're coming after both of us, George. Whoever they are, they want Evans Corp in your tech division." He turned slowly, his golden glow eyes hardening. "Then we find them before they find us." Later that night, they met at an abandoned rooftop helipad overlooking the Oceanside district. The rain had stopped, leaving the world drenched in neon reflections. Lily wore black, no makeup, no mask, just raw exhaustion. For the first time, she looked real. "I hate this," she muttered. "You and I working together." George smirked faintly. "Trust me, it's mutual." Chloe arrived moments later, tablet in hand. "I got something. Vortex Dynamics funding links to a hidden account under the alias A. Vale." George froze. Richard Vale. The same man who had given him the power, the deal, the first key to rewriting fate. "So he played me," George said quietly. Lily frowned. "Who is he?" George's tone darkened. "Someone who's been pulling strings from the shadows since day one." He looked up at the sky, the night wind brushing his hair. "He gave me power for a price. I just didn't realize the price was us." Meanwhile, inside a glass tower miles away, Richard Vale stood before a wall of holographic screens. On them, George, Lily, Chloe, all moving like chess pieces under his surveillance. A faint smile crossed his face. "They've finally connected the dots. Good. Let's see what happens when the pawns think they're kings." He turned off the screens and stepped into the shadows. Back at the helipad, George felt a chill crawl up his spine. For the first time, the power inside him whispered like a warning. "He's watching." George looked over the city, determination hardening in his eyes. "Then let him, because this time I'm not playing his game. I'm rewriting it." The war for control had begun. The morning sun broke through the clouds, painting the city gold, but beneath its warmth, shadows stirred. George stood at his office window, his reflection split by the glass, half light, half darkness. Richard Vale, the man who had given him his power, the man who had been there the night everything changed. Now George understood Richard hadn't helped him escape the story. He'd only pushed him deeper inside it. "Vortex Dynamics is a ghost company," Chloe explained, sliding a file across the table. "No physical address, no listed employees. It's like it exists only in data, and guess who's funding it?" George scanned the document, his eyes narrowed. "Evans Corporation's Hidden Trust Fund," he murmured. "Lily, this was buried under your company." Lily looked up from her seat, pale. "That's impossible, I would have seen." "Not if someone built it into the foundation from the start," George interrupted. "This story began long before either of us stepped into it." He pressed his hands against the table, mind racing, power pulsing faintly beneath his skin. flashes of memories that didn't belong to him. Faces, cities, data, the architecture of a world written like a novel but alive. Vortex isn't just a company, George said slowly. It's the author's code, the thing that keeps this world running. Chloe frowned. Author's code. He turned to her, eyes glowing faintly gold. I was dropped here, remember. What if this world isn't just fiction? What if someone is still writing it? A chill filled the room. Lily finally spoke, voice trembling. You're saying Richard Vale isn't just manipulating us. He's the one who created this reality. That night, George drove alone to the edge of the city, to a long-abandoned research complex hidden beneath layers of fog. The gate was rusted, the sign half broken. Vortex Dynamics, private access. He entered quietly, every step echoing like a heartbeat. Inside, rows of humming servers flickered with light, alive, breathing like a machine with a soul. On one central console, a message glowed. Welcome back, George Hart. Simulation cycle nearing completion. Then a voice filled the room, calm, familiar. Impressive, isn't it? Richard Vale stepped from the shadows, hands in his pockets, eyes gleaming with quiet power. George turned to face him. So it's true, you built this world. Vale smiled. Built it? No, George, I wrote it. Every betrayal, every heartbreak, every decision, even your power. George's fists clenched. Why me? Why drag me into this? Because you're the only one who can change the ending, Vale said softly. Every world needs conflict to survive. You were meant to lose, to suffer, to make the story compelling. But you broke the script, and now the system is collapsing. The lights flickered, alarms began to hum. George took a step forward. Then maybe it's time I finish the story myself. Vale tilted his head, amused. Be careful what you wish for my creation. The servers roared, the screens flooding with static, and before George could move, a surge of light enveloped him, dragging him into the data itself. The world around him dissolved. When he opened his eyes again, George was standing in a strange place, a glowing void of fragmented memories and broken scenes. Lily's voice echoed faintly somewhere in the distance, calling his name. He was no longer in the city. He was inside the story's code. And the only way out was to rewrite its heart. The void was endless, shimmering with fragments of the city, the gala, even fleeting images of Lily and Jake. Everything George had known and everything he had feared floated around him like shards of a shattered mirror. He flexed his hands. The golden pulse of his power burned brighter here. He could see the connections, events, choices, outcomes, all like glowing threads. Every thread represented a life, a decision, a path. And at the center, a faint light pulsed, Lily's narrative arc. This is it, George whispered to himself. This is where it all began and where I can finally end it. He moved forward, threads parting at his command. Memories flickered, her smirks, her laughter, the way she flaunted her affair with Jake. But there were also moments he hadn't seen before. Lily crying alone in her office, staring at the skyline, afraid of losing control. Moments of vulnerability that never made it into the public story. A voice echoed from the void. You can destroy her, George. End her story, take everything back. It was Vale's voice, calm, omnipresent. George shook his head. No, that's the old me. He focused, reaching toward the glowing threads. Instead of severing them, he wove them differently, bending the events. The threads of betrayal tangled with threads of trust, of apology, of understanding, threads that didn't exist in the original story. A sudden scream split the void, Lily's voice, frantic. George, what are you doing? Stop. He paused. I'm not destroying you, Lily. I'm giving us a choice, a real choice, something the story never allowed. Golden light surged, wrapping around both of them. The fragments of the city began to reform, stronger, brighter. And George felt it, the true weight of his power. Not just manipulation or revenge, but creation. Lily fell to her knees, tears streaming. I never thought I'd see you like this, strong, invincible. George extended a hand, helping her to her feet. You flaunted your power before, Lily. Now you'll learn what it feels like to be equal, to be human. She looked at him, vulnerability mixing with pride. And if I fail? You won't, he said firmly, because we'll face this together. In the void, the city began to solidify: streets, skyscrapers, lights, life itself. But now it pulsed with their choices, not just Vale's script. The golden threads of George's power glowed brighter than ever. The story was no longer his punishment. It was their canvas. And for the first time, the narrative didn't belong to anyone else. The reconstructed city glimmered under a radiant sunset, as if the summer itself had been amplified by the power flowing through George. Each street, each building now reflected not just reality, but choice. George and Lily stood atop the tallest tower, the skyline stretching endlessly. For the first time, neither was defined by titles, betrayal, or fear. I never imagined you could do this, Lily whispered, voice trembling. Change everything, change me. George looked at her, golden energy still pulsing faintly around his hands. You weren't beyond saving, Lily. You were trapped just like me. The difference is, now we both get to choose our story. Her eyes filled with tears, vulnerability breaking through the arrogance that had once ruled her. I don't deserve this. You deserve a chance, he said softly, but we start by facing the truth. Lily inhaled sharply. I humiliated you, I flaunted my affair, I tried to ruin everything you worked for. George nodded. And I remember it all, but holding onto revenge isn't power, it's a cage. We can break the cycle now. Her hand reached for his, hesitant, trembling, then clasped firmly. Teach me, help me make it right. George's smile was faint but real. We'll start with honesty, then rebuild trust, together. As they spoke, the golden threads of George's power wove through the city, mending broken contracts, restoring stolen funds, revealing corruption, and illuminating opportunities for redemption. Investors, employees, and even Jake, who had once been a pawn, began seeing the change. Jake, George said, his gaze firm. The young intern bowed his head. I let ambition blind me. I'll step back and fix my mistakes. George nodded. Good, that's the first step for everyone. The void outside the city, the remnant of Vale's code, began to fracture, like cracks in a digital horizon. George felt it, a pulse of the world's original programming fighting to reclaim control. Vale won't let this go quietly, Chloe warned. George exhaled, taking a deep breath. Let him try, this time we write the rules. Lily squeezed his hand. Then let's finish it together. The city shimmered in gold and summer light, alive with possibility. For the first time, the story wasn't about betrayal, humiliation, or pain. It was about choice, redemption, and power, the power to love and forgive. George looked at Lily, determination blazing. Are you ready? She nodded, eyes steady. I'm ready. And with that, they stepped forward, into a world they would now shape as equals, rewriting every ending that once seemed inevitable. The fractured skyline pulsed like a living heartbeat as George and Lily prepared to confront Richard Vale. The remnants of his code lingered, threatening to unravel the city they had painstakingly rebuilt. Are you sure we can do this? Lily asked, gripping George's arm. He's powerful, he created this world. George's golden eyes glimmered with unwavering resolve. He thinks he controls it, but he never accounted for free will, for people choosing their own destiny. Chloe guided them to the epicenter of the code, a towering vortex of light and shadows. At its center, Richard Vale awaited, tall and composed, a faint smirk on his face. Impressive, Vale said calmly, arms crossed. You've rewritten much of what I built, but you can't escape me. George stepped forward, voice steady. This world isn't yours anymore, Vale. You made the rules, but we make the choices. Vale's eyes darkened. Choices? You think you can defeat me? I am the author, the architect of every failure you faced. Every betrayal, your precious power came from me. Lily stepped beside George, her voice clear and strong. You gave him power, yes, but you underestimated one thing: love, trust, and determination, things you'll never control. The vortex shimmered violently, reacting to their combined strength. George extended his hands, golden threads of energy weaving through Vale's code, unraveling it piece by piece. Vale lunged, trying to reassert control, but each attempt failed. His smirk faltered. For the first time he looked uncertain, human even. You can't, this isn't possible, Vale shouted, voice echoing through the void. George's eyes blazed. It is possible, because this world isn't just code. It's lives, emotions, and choices, and you forgot the most important one. Lily added, her voice unwavering, we choose our ending. With a surge of golden energy, the threads of their combined will tore through Vale's control. The vortex shattered, collapsing into fragments of light that drifted harmlessly into the sky. Vale fell to his knees, defeated, powerless for the first time. He looked at George, a flicker of respect and fear in his eyes. You've rewritten everything. George nodded, stepping closer. Not me, we did, and this time the story belongs to those who deserve it. Vale vanished, leaving behind only the quiet hum of the city, alive, free, and whole. Lily exhaled, relief washing over her. It's over. George smiled, taking her hand. No, Lily, it's just beginning, and this time it's on our terms. The sunset painted the skyline in golden hues, reflecting off the skyscrapers and streets. A perfect summer evening, signaling a new chapter in their lives. The city felt alive in a way it hadn't before. Streets shimmered with a renewed vibrancy, and even the lingering tension in the air seemed to have lifted. George and Lily walked side by side through Evans Corporation's newly restructured offices, employees looking up with a mix of curiosity and hope. Things won't be easy, George said, breaking the silence. Some will still doubt you, some will never forgive what happened, and he paused, taking a deep breath. I'll have to rebuild trust too. Lily glanced at him, softening. I've never seen you like this, strong, patient, but still human. I want to be better, George. I want to earn that trust, not just from you, but from everyone. They stepped into the boardroom, where Chloe was already coordinating the team to restore the company's image and financial stability. Investors were returning cautiously, reassured by George's strategic leadership and Lily's willingness to admit her mistakes. George looked over the documents on the table. Every action taken, every choice was now grounded in transparency. He glanced at Lily. We do this together. No more secrets. No more games. She nodded, her hand brushing against his. No more games. Days turned into weeks. Slowly, the company regained its strength. Employees whispered about the transformation. The once ruthless CEO and her wronged fiancé were now a formidable team. One afternoon, atop the rooftop terrace bathed in summer sunlight, George handed Lily a small, simple envelope. She opened it to find a letter he had written. For every wrong there is a right. For every betrayal there is forgiveness. Together, we turn the pages of a story worth living. Lily's eyes shimmered. She leaned into him. Thank you for giving me a second chance. George smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Not just a second chance, a new story, and we get to write it together. The golden glow of the sun reflected in their eyes, a promise of love, resilience, and a future unbound by past mistakes. The city was alive with golden sunlight, streets glistening after a brief summer rain. George and Lily stood on the rooftop of Evans Corporation, overlooking a skyline that now felt like a world they had truly earned. The trials, the betrayal, the battles, all of it had led to this moment. Lily squeezed George's hand, a silent acknowledgement of the journey they had survived together. "I can't believe how far we've come," Lily said softly, voice filled with both awe and relief. "It feels like a lifetime ago, the affair, the humiliation, the games." George smiled, eyes reflecting the warm summer light. "It does, but every challenge taught us something, about strength, about forgiveness, about each other." Chloe approached, smiling. "The company is stable. Investors are back and the board unanimously approved Lily's new leadership initiatives. It's official, the past is behind us." Jake, once the ambitious intern who sparked the chaos, stepped forward as well. I've learned a lot. Thank you both for showing me the right way to handle ambition." George nodded. "Good. That's what matters, growth, accountability, and moving forward." Lily turned to him, her expression tender. "And us?" He pulled her into a gentle embrace, the summer wind carrying warmth and possibility around them. "Us is, finally, real. No lies, no scripts, no power games, just you and me together." For the first time in the story, they were free. Free to love, free to trust, free to live without the shadow of manipulation or betrayal. The city below sparkled like a canvas of endless opportunity. The golden hour painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, reflecting off the glass towers. It wasn't just a new chapter for the company or for George and Lily. It was a new chapter for them, a story they would continue to write with every choice, every laugh, every embrace. George tilted his head, brushing a lock of hair from Lily's face, ready to leave the past behind and step into the future. Lily smiled, leaning her forehead against his. "Ready." The sun dipped below the horizon, casting its final golden light across the city. And for the first time, George felt the full weight of redemption, the beauty of forgiveness, and the thrill of a summer that belonged entirely to them. The world they had once been trapped in had finally become their own.